So I saw 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple this past Thursday at the theaters. Now, I wasn't too excited for this movie because of the fact that I was very disappointed in the last movie. Like, I didn't hate the last movie, 28 Years Later. There was things I liked about it, but there's also some problems I had with that last movie. So going into this, like I said, I wasn't too excited for this movie. I gotta say, I'm pleasantly surprised by 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. I thought this was great. To me, this was way better than the last movie. The only nitpick I would say I had about this movie is that I do wish there was more scenes with the affected zombies in this. You don't get too many scenes with the affected in this. And that would be really the only nitpick I had about this movie, 20 Years Later, The Bone Temple. The things I love about this movie is that I thought this movie was much more focused tone and story wise in this movie. Like you have two different storylines in this movie. With this movie though, it all feels like it gels together, at least for me, in a cohesive way. Whereas the last movie felt tone wise all over the place and it felt like it had like 10 different plot lines going on. This movie just felt much more focused and tighter to me with what the themes and story is trying to tell. I love the characters even more in this. Like I liked Wayfine's character, the Doctor, in the last movie. I loved him even more in this. Like I thought mostly invested in his character. I thought the kid who plays Spike was great in this movie. Like I liked his character in the last movie. In this movie, you really feel like the danger for his character. And the ending of the last movie, where you had him running into meeting Jimmy and his crew in the colorful jumpsuits looking like Teletubbies mixed with Power Rangers. I really loved his Jimmy as a villain in this. Like he's not doing those. You don't see him in this game doing crazy flips. Like that was one of the things I hate about the last movie is the last like 5-10 minutes or something of that movie where you see Spike run into Jimmy and his gang, and it just came off so goofy and silly in that last movie. In this movie, you don't see him doing like these crazy flips and all of that. So they felt much more intense in this movie and much more scary in this movie. And I think the actor who played Jimmy in this movie was, I believe the actor's name is, he was in Sinners, I remember, playing the lead vampire bad guy, which he was great in Sinners also. Jack O'Connor's named the actor. I thought he was great in this movie. He had tons of charisma. Like I can see why he would be this cult leader that you would follow, and also why you'd be scared around him. I also think there's some parts where he's just really he has like a dark sadistic nature with the character. So it was like you really hated his character in a way where you're like, yeah, this is somebody you just really hate. I think he does a great job because to me, some of the best villains are ones that you really just hate, and you see how disgusting they are. And to me, he just makes this character so like he's just full of so much like personality. The character, just like yeah, you can see why people would follow him. You can also see why people would be scared of him, and you really feel the danger for Spike when he's around Jimmy. Like there's like a torture scene later on in the movie that Jimmy and his gang do this like they do something really brutal to his family, and you're like, oh my god, this guy is sadistic. Like you're scared for Spike in this movie. I will say Spike takes a little bit of a backseat in this movie compared to the last movie, but I did have a problem with that because I really think the movie does a great job of like really getting you to feel the danger for Spike. Like you feel sympathetic towards this kid. Like, you want him to get out of this, and you realize he's forced into this group, and you want him to like make it out of this. So you just Spike taking more of a backseat didn't bother me because I feel like that actually made sense for the story. Like this movie is really Jimmy and the Doctor's story in this movie, and the movie does a great job of merging the stories together. Like I would say this movie has more of a straightforward story than the last movie, and it just like I said, it feels more tighter and focused, and the tone feels more focused in this movie. The last movie felt like the tone felt so all over the place in that last movie. It had so many plot lines. Like the last movie was trying to be a coming of age story. It was trying to be a zombie movie. It was trying to be a mother and son story with her having cancer. You had the father and son story in that movie. You had the ending of that movie with Jimmy and his gang that showed up. It just felt like that movie was trying to be so many things tone wise and so many storylines. that it just never, that last movie never felt like it found like a groove. In this movie, everything felt like it just gelled together for me personally. And yeah, this movie does go crazy like this last movie. In this movie, though, it feels earned. It feels like, okay, you built up to this. The crazy moments in this movie. Like, there's this really entertaining sequence at the end with Wade Fiennes where he looks like he's pretending to be Satan, and I can't remember the name of the metal band. He does like a whole dance sequence at the end of this movie, and I thought that was just badass and really entertaining sequence at the end of the movie. And I also really love the storyline with the doctor and the affected character Samson. You even get a little backstory with the affected Samson, the alpha affected that you met in the last movie. I really loved the odd friendship they form. Like they form this really like interesting like friendship because he's a doctor, and the fact that he still thinks that you can with the affected that there's maybe some humanity still left in there. I really love that too. One of the things I liked about his character in the last movie that I love even more in this movie is how his perspective on the affected is, because he's a doctor, and just his perspective, like being like there's still humanity left in there. I really love that. I just think he offers a really unique perspective on the affected, his character, the Doctor character. I think this movie does a great job of paying off everything that story wise that is set up in this movie. And like I said, I think as a character, Wines finds character, he's just a really compelling character that you feel invested in. I really feel invested in his friendship with the Samuel character. And like I said, you get a little backstory with the affected Alpha in this later on, which I thought was really cool. And the character Jimmy, he's just so like he has tons of personality. The villain in this movie, and this movie really shows how people, like you see in other time movies, how people are sometimes roasting the zombies. And it has like a religious kind of aspect with the Jimmy character because he's kind of like a cult, him and his gang, and they worship Satan. And I really love how that was explored in this movie. I also really love how like you had the doctor side of the story where his story is more about hope, that there's some hope and being able to cure the affected and seeing that there's maybe some humanity still left in there of who they were. And then the other side of Jimmy, where you see this is like the side of the humanity that's devolved, that's become so sadistic and so like ugly because of the world, how the world is. I really love how both, like you see kind of the different sides of both those storylines. And they really, like I said, they really merge together in a great way as the movie goes along. And this movie just feels so much more focused. Like it feels like the plot feels more streamlined in this movie. It doesn't feel like it has like 20 different plot lines like the last movie. So this movie just felt more tighter to me. And yeah, there's some like goofy moments with Samson and the Doctor. For me personally, though, those moments broke for me in this movie. It didn't feel like the last movie where the tone was like where it felt like it was like a whiplash in the last movie with where it had so many different tones. It just never felt like it found its tone in that last movie. So overall, I thought this was a great movie. I know this movie is directed by Neo Nia DiCasio, who did the Candyman sequel from 2021. Was I really enjoyed that Candyman movie. I don't think it was great, but I thought that was a solid, good movie. She also did The Marvels, which I was not a fan of. I thought that was terrible, personally. To me, this is her best movie. I thought the script was great in this. I know some people might miss the artistic vibe of the last movie because I would say the last movie is more experimental and this movie is more. This movie feels more streamlined for like a for like a movie audience where it doesn't have. I would say it doesn't have those artistic vibes that the last movie had, where there's experimental vibes the last movie had. For me personally, I was fine with that in this movie. Like I said, there were some real choices in that last movie. I just creative, experimental choices didn't work for me personally. So I like the fact this movie was more like streamlined. It felt when it came to like its vibe and the way it's directed, I thought this was a very well directed movie. So overall, I thought 20 Years Later, The Bone Temple was fantastic. I thought the story was great. I felt invested in all the characters. Oh, the ending of the movie. So I'm gonna get into spoilers here. Stop the video now if you don't want to know the spoilers in this movie. Is that Cecilia Murphy was pronouncing the actor's name wrong? The actor who was in the first movie 28 Days Later, not 20 years later, the original movie 28 Days Later. Cecilia Murphy. You do meet up with his character. He's in the final scene of this movie with his daughter, and that made me really excited also for the next movie because I love this movie and this movie actually made me excited. Having it at the end also made me excited too for the next movie. Like the idea of seeing where his characters fits in story wise in the next movie, and it also ends in a way where I really want to see how his character interacts with Spike. And another positive with this movie I want to talk about is that one of the Jimmys in this movie, there's this I can't remember the name of the actress, but the character, the girl Jimmy, I thought she was great in this movie. I really loved her. That I really loved her character and her Jimmy because they show that she's kind of more sensitive when it comes to like the horrific. Like she's not as bad as the other Jimmys. And I really loved her character. Like I really like how kind of like she was more sensitive, and I like the kind of the friendship her and Spike kind of form form and grow in this movie. Like I'm really excited to see how Cecilia Murphy's character interacts with the Spike character and the Jimmy character that survives this movie. Like I think that's could be make some really interesting interactions with these characters. And I just like I said, I really love the Jimmy character, the one that's the girl one who's like becomes friends with Spike and kind of more sensitive one, like I said. Like I really thought she was a great new addition to this franchise. So for me personally, I thought 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple was a great movie, a step up from the last movie as someone who's kind of was just very middle of the road on that last movie. This to me was much better personally for me. So that's my thoughts on 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Until next time, movie fans.